What up, y'all? Welcome to the Matt Cave. I'm Matt Convoy, and this is Beast Wars Reborn, Megatron, and Optimus Primal. Or if you happen to be from Japan, you probably know this guy better as Convoy. Yeah, back before the first live-action Transformers movie came out, every Japanese iteration of Transformers referred to Optimus Prime as Convoy. Which does make a fair amount of sense for a guy that has a semi-truck vehicle mode, not so much for a guy who turns into a monkey. Oh, here we go.
Optimus Primal transforms into a gorilla? Gorillas are apes, not monkeys.
I'm 37 in case you were wondering. Anyway, if you don't already know what Beast Wars is, it is simultaneously the sequel and a prequel to the original Transformers. Confused yet? Well, let's see if I can explain it without making it worse. Spoiler alert for an almost 3 decades old kids show. 4 million years ago, the Autobots and Decepticons leave Cybertron. The Decepticons board the Autobot ship and they crash land together into the side of a volcano on Earth, knocking out everyone aboard. In 1984, the volcano erupts, waking everybody up from their robo-coma. And what Beast Wars refers to as the Great War continues on Earth. 300 years after the end of the Great War, at some point there was a great upgrade on Cybertron. And now the Autobots and Decepticons have evolved into the Maximals and Predacons, respectively. A ship full of rogue Predacons makes an illegal wormhole jump, followed by the only Maximal ship within range to pursue them. After exiting the wormhole, the two ships shoot each other down and crash land onto an unknown planet. This time without knocking anybody out. I guess the great upgrade included better airbags. This planet has life, but no civilization, hence no vehicles. So instead of planes, trains, and automobiles, everybody disguises themselves as fuzzy and or scaly animals. It's eventually revealed that the unknown planet is actually prehistoric Earth during the Autobots and Decepticons' literal dirt nap. You still with me? And Beast Wars Reborn is these two guys, plus a CD-ROM. Now, if these two look familiar at all, congratulations, your childhood was awesome. Don't let those 80s kids tell you otherwise. These guys are actually identical to the figures in the Beast Wars 10th Anniversary 2-pack released in the West, which were minor retools and heavy recolors of the original Ultra Class Optimus and Megatron. Both figures have new, more screen-accurate molds for the robot mode heads, sadly at the cost of losing a cool little battle mask feature. Optimus also gets a new screen-accurate chest piece which flips over to a new ape face, not that one, for his transformation. Both of them also benefit from new, more screen-accurate paint jobs. Especially Megatron, just look at this. That's not some kind of unpainted prototype. That's how the original version of this figure came out of the box. All that beautifully sculpted robot detail and not a lick of paint on any of it except the head. It's a crying shame they released him like that in the first place. But at least they fixed that on this release. By the way, that's the Vintage Collection version pictured there, which were reissues reproduced almost exactly how the original 90s figures were, apart from sometimes using different shades of the same color, and or sometimes weakening spring-loaded features.
Bruh.
Look how they massacred my boy.
These guys are rocking some pretty solid articulation, even by today's standards, barring some minor caveats. Thanks to some ratchet joints being part of one of Optimus's play features, which we'll get to in a bit, his arms can be a little tricky but very manageable to pose. And Megatron's kibble-tastic robot form presents some challenges, but again, nothing your average 8-year-old can't handle. Both of them got ball-jointed necks, but Optimus for some reason ain't got much of a head tilt. Megatron's the only one who really needs it though. With that newly sculpted, snarky, conniving, confidently evil smirk, he is gon' get you, and by the pit does he know it. He's got a soft ratcheting waist swivel, while Primal's sporting the friction swivel option with satisfactory solidity, though his dummy thick thighs do have a nasty habit of dislodging his stored weapons. I'm trying to big you up here in a minute, brother, enough with the monkey business. Each is bringing his own solution to hip articulation. Optimus showing off that 90s toy tech with his massive monkey ball and socket joints, and Megatron opting for the tried and true classic ratchets. When it comes to weapons, old Grapeface here is sporting a pair of thigh-mounted spring-loaded launchers, bringing enough pressure to topple any poor plastic peon who gets in his way. His left arm, formed from his dino tail, has a grabby claw gimmick controlled by this geared push rod. The claw retracts when you push the rod in, and a spring mechanism extends it when you let go. Kinda weird that the extended position is the default. Also feels kinda weird that you push to retract the claw. But it's whatever, nothing to hate on here. If you push the claw back and manually close it, it rests in a more screen-accurate and natural-looking position. His right hand, formed by the dino head, has a squirting gimmick. Nah, I'm not going there this time. I was pushing it in the Bumblebee review. But I got nieces and nephews that might check this out. Angry parent comments are bad enough on their own, but angry parent comments from my own siblings? No thanks. Anyway, the method of arming this little mini Super Soaker is one of the most metal things you will ever see on a toy. To get to the fill plug, you pull out his trachea with his tongue still attached. And I just realized I needed to censor that for more reasons than just the gore factor. The mechanics of the squirt gun force his mouth open, as if he's screaming in agony while you rip his throat out. What was I just saying about kids maybe watching this? Hey, don't come after me about it. Kenner, owned by Hasbro, were the ones who unleashed this toy into the world, claiming it was suitable for kids as young as 5. Anyways, you pull this plug here, fill it up with water or whatever liquid of your choosing. Reinstall the tank, pull back on his noggin, and the liquid comes shooting out.
This is completely the wrong dinosaur for this gimmick. Dilophosaurus spat venom, not Tyrannosaurus. Didn't these 90s Kenner toy designer hacks even watch Jurassic?
Now, if you think this rogue terrorist who named himself after an infamous tyrannical warlord is armed to the literal teeth, wait till you see what kind of heat the commanding officer of a science and exploration team is packing. Press this button on his Gorilla Gat, and a pair of missile-launching shoulder cannons flip up and over. They tend to flip one right after the other, but it is possible to get them to go at the same time. Press either of these tiny gray buttons to fire them off. Part of me does kind of wish that the button was on the other side so that the missiles would go as soon as the launchers flipped. Even so, it's still a sick gimmick. After the launchers flip up, each one reveals a hidden sword, one for each hand. Alternatively, since the handholds go all the way through, you can put both in one hand to make a twin sword thing. Pull this lever on his left wrist and the entire forearm explodes into a twin hand cannon. And you might have noticed these guys hiding out behind Primal's noggin. They're identical to the shoulder cannon missiles, but are meant for use in his double fist cannon. Press these gray buttons forward-ish to support Second Amendment lefts. Launch them in conjunction with the shoulder cannons to ensure that guy over there ceases to alive. Furthermore, open up this compartment on his right arm to pull out a freaking Iron Maiden flail. Bro, the 90s were awesome, I don't care who you are. Finally, we have this lever on his back that flips out and pushes in. Waggle it up and down to move his arms depending on the position of this switch on either bicep. Up to spin at the bicep swivel, down to swing at the shoulder. Either way, keep clear of his 12 o'clock. This is one of the coolest action figures ever. Easily one of my top 10 favorite Transformers figures, maybe even top 5. But I am getting ahead of myself. We haven't even checked out the transformations yet. Let's amend that, shall we? Ooh, wait, size comparisons. Here's a couple of modern Voyager class figures, some average sized Master Grade Gunpla, and definitely not flexing. Okay, now let's transform. Alright, let's jump back to Megs for a bit. He's got a pretty kibble-tastic bot mode, so he can get in his own way a good bit during transformation. Which isn't that big a deal for me, being one of those weirdos that actually enjoyed the alternators line most of the time. I'm also the kind of weirdo who looks back fondly on previously owning a good chunk of the 2001 Robots in Disguise line. including the iteration of Megatron that had actually, literally, 10 different modes, and I still vibed with it.
Sorry, I can't leave this one alone. Megatron only had 6 modes. He didn't get the other 4 until he upgraded into Galvatron.
Okay, but they're the exact same toy, though. Literally, the only difference is a color swap. You could still do the other modes with Megatron.
I also couldn't help but notice you don't seem to be counting the 11th mode, Double Ostrich, which was invented by an actual Takara employee and then canonized in the 2017 Transformers Legends comic. But you wouldn't need me to tell you any of this if you weren't such a fake fan. Hashtag fake fan.
Duly noted and ignored.
You suck.
Point is, Beast Wars Megatron's transformation is far from the worst kibble interference I've ever dealt with. After not much more than a pair of 180 knee swivels, the robot legs become the dino legs, and to position the arms as the head and tail, the torso pulls some funky acrobatics that I'm only just now realizing have an interesting parallel with G1 Megatron's transformation. Oh, holy shnikes, I just realized that Classics Megatron, which was a redesign of the original Megatron, totally pulls from Beast Megs' shell formery, bot wings close up to hide the robot stuff move. Anyway, flip this little chest plate up to finish closing everything off. Peep the definition on those Rex pecs. Not to mention those vestigial biceps. And Primus and Vector Sigma, those calves of literal steel. Friggin' Tyrannosaurus Rex over here.
Let me ask you something, brother. What's Optimus gonna do when Megalomania is coming for you? With these 2-inch pythons, Megatron doesn't need an arsenal to take on this Harambe wannabe over here. Forget the Beast Wars. Megatron's ready to bring on the Great War Part 2. So he better keep those pea shooters locked and loaded, man. Cause Megalomania's running wild. Ah!
Anyway, speaking of the boss monkey, Primal is a much simpler creature in the transformation department. You swivel his waist 180, hunch him over, and you're basically done. Couple of flips on the front and back of his feet. Swing his shoulder pads down, swing this chunk up, and flip his chest panel along the way to reveal his ape face. Lock his head in, and Monkey's your uncle. And it is in the middle of doing this review that I realized the duality of how the simplicity of this transformation has never bothered me, and yet I balked so hard at just about any Gundam design that does pretty much the same thing. But it's not too hard to imagine that Optimus Primal's transformation needed to be simple to facilitate the metric buttload of gimmicks he's rocking. All of which still work in this mode, by the way. His gorilla ears even stop the flip launchers and hold them at an angle that's appropriate for the beast mode. Everything else has to do with his arms, which are 95% the same between modes. One thing to note, if you have both arm switches in the down position, the back lever gives you some fun chest beating action.
Munky!
Articulation is largely the same here. The robo thighs are basically the gorilla hips now, so the waist swivel is a good bit hindered by that. Arm articulation is barely scathed. The gorilla head is completely immobile, but it was the 90s, what are you gonna do? Megatron's posability, on the other hand, gets mega nerfed. His hip ratchets only get a single click fore and aft, and about 3 clicks outward if he's feeling limber. His dino arms are on ball and socket joints with plenty of swivel, but barely any wiggle. Next got a 360 soft ratchet swivel, which is really only good for excusing the heck out of his god-danged French.
What did you call me?
Mouth obviously still opens for his water gun gimmick. And while we're here, his hip thigh launchers can extend out and rotate forward on a ratchet for the missiles. His big old lobster claw is locked in place as his beast mode tail. But I guess the idea is that now he does the stereotypical dinosaur spin your entire self to use your tail as a bat thing.
Well, I'ma tell you something right now. The banana cream of the crop is gonna rise to the top, oh yeah. Optimus has got you in beast mode, he's got you in robot mode. He's got full access to all of his gear no matter what mode he's gotta take you in. Not that he needs any of it to snap into this Barney the dinosaur reject. That's right, they don't call him Optimus Primal for nothing. Boss Monkey's ready to go full King Silicon on your purple tail. Oh yeah!
It's a versus 2-pack, leave me alone. Neither of these figures had a whole lot changed for their beast modes, apart from Optimus's new screen-accurate face sculpt. Although it somehow still doesn't look quite right. I think because the toy's gorilla head is notably more cone-shaped, I guess, compared to the show model. Megatron's beast mode didn't even get a facelift, but at least they painted in his eye pupils. In fact, most of the new paint budget seems to have been spent on the robot modes, while the beast modes seem to use pretty much the same applications as the original figures, just with more screen-accurate colors. And that pretty much does it for the figures themselves. Here they are again with some Voyagers, Master Grade Gunpla, and I ain't flexing, this guy's flexing. Now before we wrap up, let's have a look at that CD-ROM that I mentioned 5 ever ago. Now if you bought the Western version of this set, you instead got a DVD with an episode of the show on it, which feels kind of redundant since the whole 10th anniversary line seems geared towards people who had already owned the DVD box sets. This CD-ROM, however, allegedly brings something new to the table. Let's pop it in and find out exactly what, provided it still works. Alrighty, let's pop this bad boy in and see what happens. It's gonna take a minute, it's an old reader. Still got a green light. What's happening? And open up settings. Oh. There we go. Run. Show exec sure. Setting. Oh, what do we got? That's lame. Well, that sucks. If you really want to know what's on it, tformers.com has an extensive article explaining just that. Basically, it's supposed to be like one of those special features discs that used to come with DVDs back in the day. I do want to say I love that the CD is done up to look like one of the MacGuffin golden discs from the show. Kind of makes me feel like the people behind this set respect me on some level just for being a Beast Wars fan, and aren't just preying on my nostalgia for the sake of making a quick buck. I mean, they are doing that, but, you know, respectfully. Anyway, should we wrap this thing up? I think we should. I guess we'll begin this end with why I prefer these over the Masterpiece figures. And let me just throw this disclaimer out there, I have never handled a Beast Wars Masterpiece, but I have owned a handful of Generation 1 MPs in the past. And I've seen plenty of reviews on official and unofficial Masterpiece Beasties. And I've concluded that while they certainly look good, the Beast Wars figures especially pulling out all the stops to marvelously replicate the on-screen likenesses of their namesakes in both modes. But they just don't seem like any fun. The transformations look easy to get lost in, and they just don't do all that much apart from the occasional light-up robot mode eyes. MP Beast Megs does have a voice box as well, but it's all lines from the Japanese dub. Which, even if I could understand it, for sakes, I've lived in Japan for 4 years, what am I doing with my life? It still wouldn't hit the same as the voice I grew up hearing on the show.
I like you, pussycat. Yes.
Plus, the look of the Beast Wars MPs is so distinctly based on the CG models from the show that you can't really mix and match with other lines apart from using Chug or OG figures as placeholders for MPs that haven't come out or been announced yet. So why not the Kingdom molds? They seem to have about the same transformation complexity as the originals. Megatron is apparently the same size as this mold, and Optimus is noticeably smaller, which tracks with the scale of the show, but like the Masterpieces, they just don't do that much. However, I am going for some Kingdom molds primarily for characters that shared a mold with somebody else. Like Tigatron, who is originally the same mold as Cheetor, just with a different paint job. So maybe someday Kingdom T-Rex will join Grimlock on my Dinobot shelf, and Nemesis Primal might find himself on my Black Convoy shelf. But for my Beast Wars shelf, I gotta go with these guys. And in my humble opinion, these guys are an essential part of just about any Transformers collection. Whether it's either version of the 10th anniversary set, the actual vintage figures, or the vintage collection reissues, they are some of the best examples of what Transformers had to offer in the 90s. And they're just plain good fun in a way that'll have you feeling like you're 8 years old again. And, I guess that's my piece. So thanks for watching. If you got the time, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And I'll catch you on the next one. Fingers crossed for me keeping it up. Later, taters. Oh, wait, how can I forget the Robot Masters molds? They're smaller rebuilds of these figures. 0 spring-loaded features, so 0 out of 10 for me.